Hello, it's TLC here to go through another one of D&D 5th edition's classes. Specifically looking at the Bard class, kind of just going through the tier list, just kind of ranking where I believe anyway the tier list of the Bard ends up being. Now this one's gonna be a little bit interesting. It's gonna be a little weird, in the essence that, as I've said in a previous posted video here on this channel, um, the Bard is, in my opinion, the absolute best class in fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, which I'll go through a little bit more into detail later. So when we're going through the tiers, there's a reason that we're going to see that it is much more top heavy than perhaps some of the other classes will be when we get to them. But without any further ado, all right, let us look here at the Bard tier list. Now, my tier list goes as follows. If something ends up falling in the F tier, which there really aren't too many out of any of the classes, but if there's ever a subclass that ends up in F tier, then that simply means that it's just not fucking worth playing. All right, it is a subclass that if you pick it, you are accepting the fact that you are going to be, I'm not going to say a hindrance, but you're going to find yourself, no matter what the situation is, you are not the best at it. Or even, the things that you think you would be good at, they end up just kind of biting you in the ass, or they're so situational that it's just, you may think that, wow, I'm glad I picked this class once in the entire campaign. That is the F tier. D tier means that the absolute best you can hope for is mediocrity. So this means that it's better than F, but it's a subclass that just, it has so little going for it that you're really better picking out anybody else. C means it's not good, but it's also not bad. It's average. All right, a C rating simply means that, hey, it is still situational, but when it is, when you are in that situation, it's really good. And the situations that this particular subclass, is made for, they pop up often enough that you'd be able to kind of finagle around that. Okay, I'm, even though I can tell that I'm not the most powerful character, I'm not the worst. And that's C. B tier means it's solid, but it means that there might be something missing, right? There's just, that one ability, that at level 6 it just gets so little, that the other subclasses beat it out. So B tier isn't that big of a deal. It's still a pretty solid choice, but there's just something about it that's kind of going against the grain. A, solid. All right, A tier is top of the top, besides, of course, the single top. And to be honest, A tier, you can pick any of them and you will have a blast. You will be, one of the most powerful versions of this class that you can have if you are playing an A tier subclass. And then, of course, you got S tier, and S tier is the best of the best. And my rules as I'm creating my tier list, this is the rule that I'm holding myself to, is that there is only ever one S tier. If I am ever, does that mean that I think that? Do I think, do I honestly think that, if I put the bear totem barbarian and the ancestral guardian barbarian, do I honestly think that the bear barbarian is truly the single, outbeats everything else all the time? No. But to me, S tier means that, out of all the subclasses, if you look at them most of the time, it does what the class is supposed to specialize in. And so I always try to make it so that there's only one. But this is my tier list. This is kind of my criteria. And with that, let's go ahead and get right on into it here by looking first at F tier. There's nothing. Obviously, there's going to be nothing. I can't make a video that says that the Bard is the single most powerful class in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and then throw one of their subclasses into F tier. That's just, that's just not a thing. That doesn't work. The reason why you will not find any Bard in F tier, or, spoiler alert, D tier, is because they have so much going for them. One, they are a full caster, so they get to that super amazing, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth level spell slots. They have the ability to, they have a lot of versatility, a lot of utility. I will say there is something about the Bard that I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of the fact that the Bard they kind of pull a sorcerer where they can only have so many spells at certain levels, and once they learn them, they cannot forget them, or they can forget one when they level up and replace it with something else. But that really doesn't make any sense. It would be better to just take the new one. I don't, I guess if you just really care about a clean spell sheet, then sure. But if there's any weakness to the Bard spell list, I guess that's it. But I think Tosh has even changed out a little bit as to how that is. So, but everything else, it gets to go for it. On top of that, this is a class that gets to use its charisma as its spell casting. Here is why that is so damn important. One of the biggest aspects, and maybe this is just in my table, maybe this is just a me thing, but all I know is that when I DM, because most of the time I'm the DM at my tables, I try very hard to make sure that my players experience exploration, investigation, social, and combat. To quote Jim Davis off of WebDM, the 4 pillars of play when it comes to D&D: investigation, exploration, social, and combat. And I try really hard to make sure that the players get to experience all 4 of those pillars as often as I can. If I can fit all 4 in one session multiple times, I try to do so. So the fact that this is a class that can have its spell casting also be the ability score that, if increased, helps it outside of combat, it immediately makes this better. This is something that, say the wizard kind of has going against it. Now, am I saying that the wizard is bad because its intelligence is its spellcasting modifier, is its combat-oriented modifier? No. But what I am saying is that, odds are, unless the wizard rolled really, really well, and were willing to have, maybe their second or third best stat be their charisma, odds are the wizard is not able to go into every social encounter and be the face and be the talker, to deceive and perform and persuade and things like that. The bard can. The bard can literally go from, one room where they are the face, where they are the leader of the party, where they are the ones doing all the talking and negotiating and all of that, and then immediately turn right around and be just as effective and just as useful in combat. The fact that charisma is their modifier is very, very good when you are looking at the 4 pillars of play and seeing, okay, which stats help in most of these, and charisma shows up in the most. So the fact that the bard gets to use it as their spell casting, absolutely great. Utility, they have one of the best utility spell lists out there. The only class I would say probably out utilities them is the cleric. I don't even think the druid can out utility the bard. Due to reasons here that I'll get to in a second. So they are the definition of a utility class. They possess the ability to be jack of all trades and expertise. So not only are we talking about a class that is going to be pretty good at everything with the jack of all trades, but with expertise, it now also gets to be the best at the things that it wanted to be good at. So it's good at everything, and it's the best at some things. It is a fantastic combination. This is, like everyone looks to the rogue and says, oh, the rogue is going to be the sneak, the sneaky one. They're going to be the ones that do the pickpocket and the stealth things. A bard can beat them out in spades, especially considering that since a bard is a full caster, they get to use things like Pass Without Trace if they take the spell, invisibility, Dimension Door, Misty Step. They have so much going for them that, if they wanted to be the rogue, the party's rogue, they could do it better than the rogue. If they wanted to be the bruiser, Maybe they wouldn't be able to output, say a Hexblade, Pally, or something like that, but they could get right on up there. And we'll talk about that, how they can get that here in a second. But this combination, this jack of all trades and expertise, to be honest, I don't understand why this class gets both. I would have understood if they would have gotten one or the other. I would have understood if, okay, all bards get jack of all trades, but only, certain classes get expertise, maybe. But the fact that, I don't know, there's just something about the bard. I don't know if Wizards of the Coast, if whoever the hell wrote up this class, I don't know if they just decided to say, yep, whatever the bard class wants, because it's been known as the joke class, in previous editions, we're just going to give it to them and let them be the powerhouse. I don't know how this class got away with what it did, but it is one of the best classes, and it just has so much stuff going for it. Speaking of so much going for it, magical secrets, the ability at certain levels to just take spells from other lists. I think it's like 2 at like 6th or 2 at 10, and then 2 more at 14, and then 2 more at another after that. I know it's like 3 times they get to take multiple spells. The reason why this is so huge, and the reason why this is such a big deal, is because, one, they can take any spell from any spell list. So remember how I said that if they wanted to out-rogue the rogue, they could do it because of their magic? This is how. If a bard wanted to be the best rogue, then it could literally just go in and take the best sneaking magics that it wanted. So it could take Pass Without a Trace. It could take Greater Invisibility. I forget the new one, the one that's in Tasha's, the one that allows you to make a copy of yourself where you go invisible and do something else. To be honest, I've never used it, so I don't know if it's truly as useful as I'm thinking it is, but it sounds cool. And when I read it, I thought that it was a really cool spell. But the fact that it has all of these things going for it is just nuts. And then, of course, the last thing, the big thing, the thing that makes a bard when it comes to a lot of people's opinion anyway, and that is its inspiration. The fact that, again, going back to that utility, you can argue that the cleric is maybe better at utility than the bard, because, clerics have so much more healing ability. They have access to things like, the Greater Restoration spells and the Revivify spells and things like that. But to me, that's almost more survivability. Utility is meant to keep you from getting hit. Utility is meant to get you out of trouble or out of sticky situations. Revivify, Raise Dead, Greater Restoration, that means shit's already hit the fan, and now someone needs to save your ass. And the fact that inspiration can make such a big difference, and at a certain level, you can use it on yourself. All of this going for it is why there's no way you can put bard in any form of an F tier or D tier, no matter how shitty the subclass abilities might be. All right, D tier. This shouldn't be that big of a surprise. All right, I've already alluded to it. There is no D tier subclass. Again, I'm trying. My tier list is maybe designed a little bit differently than others. I'm not just ranging tier list, based solely in the bard class. I am saying, my tier list is, hey, how well does this subclass rank in D&D 5th edition? And none of them are bad enough to even fall into D tier. None in F, none in D. And to be honest, there's arguments to be made that most of them, all of them, probably ain't even in C, solely from, all of these previous points. But I gotta be fair, and so I definitely could not put any in F. I definitely can't put any into D. C, maybe. So with that, let's go ahead and go right on into the first actual subclass to talk about, and that is the Valor Bard. The Valor Bard is the worst bard. Now, as I've already said, no bard is bad. In fact, no bard is mediocre. A bard's basic abilities alone mean anything that it gets on top of it is just more good on good. It's already good. You don't even need a subclass in a bard to be good, to make it good. But this one, if I gotta compare, this is the worst. So what do we get here? Valor Bard. First off, at 3rd level, you get bonus proficiencies. Medium armor, shields, martial weapons. All right, so you want to make your bard a frontline fighter. All right, this is a decent start. I wish they would have given it heavy armor. I understand why. Wizards of the Coast has tried very, very hard to not give any, without multi-classing, has tried very hard to not give any pure spellcaster the ability to wear heavy armor. I get it, but if all it takes is a single level in certain classes of cleric or paladin or fighter, starting off as like a first level fighter and then going the rest into bard, and now you get heavy armor. I don't know. I just if it's pretty easy to get it, I don't know why they didn't just give it to him there anyway. But whatever. Medium armor, shields, martial weapons, not bad. All right. Also, third level, you get combat inspiration. A creature that has a bardic inspiration die from you can roll that die and add that number rolled to weapon damage that it just made. This is nice because it means that it is not a called shot. All right, I can make the attack and then do it. I also know most of my DM friends, most of what I've seen online, most people also rule that if a character decides to use a bardic inspiration on, say, a crit, they do allow it to be doubled. So again, the fact that you get to choose after it's hit to use it is good. I'm glad that they didn't make it like a called shot of some kind. Alternatively, when an attack roll is made against the creature, it can use its reaction to roll the bardic inspiration die and add it to its AC against that attack. Again, after seeing the roll, but before knowing whether it hits or misses, which whenever that last sentence gets put into anything, it never matters. By the time by the time you would use this, damn well, whether that attack is going to hit you or not. Anyway, overall, not bad. It is relatively balanced because of the fact that again, according to the rules, you can only have one inspiration at any given time. So it's not like you can have like 6 of these stacked up. And at some point, you can use them on yourself, I do believe. No, nothing in here. It says a creature that has an inspiration, which at some point you get to use your own inspiration dice. So at some point, you get to use these for yourselves. It is a reaction though, so I suppose again, if we're going melee, you may miss out on attacks of opportunity or things like that. But hey, it is what it is. Also, rolled against that attack. I had a player who made a very high level bard. It was an Orcus campaign, and he played a Valor bard. And we missed this, and so we had it to where whenever he rolled it, he had it for like till the next round. And that was broken because he was having ACs of like 30. And I was like, I don't know how. And so then I reread this, and so don't miss that word against. It raises your AC by that bardic inspiration against that attack. So hey, if you're fighting a big bad that only hits once, super great ability. Extra attack at 6th level, you get to attack twice. And exactly what it says. And finally, at 14th level, you have mastered the art of weaving spellcasting and weapon use into a single harmonious act. When you use your action to cast a bard spell, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. Not bad, but if as you're reading this, you're feeling a little lackluster, especially considering everything that the Valor Bard gets here at 3rd level, I agree. All right, you're feeling what I felt, and it's why I think the Valor Bard is in C tier. It isn't because any of these abilities are flat out bad. It isn't like, say, the Berserker Barbarian, where it's like, oh yeah, here's this ability you get at 6th level, where if you would have just started off as an elf, you would already have it. Like none of these are bad, but as we get further in the list and as the font size gets smaller and smaller, because more and more abilities get put on bards, the more books have come out, this is going to feel very empty. And it's probably why it ended up in my C tier. It's not bad, but these things all, it's just not the best. And lastly, and the last thing I'll say here about the Valor Bard is, again, it's living up to its expectation, which is, the Valor Bard is a bard who went into combat. He is dipping his toes heavy in the sea of combat stuff. None of this helps them anywhere outside of combat. None of this helps them in social encounters. None of this helps them in exploration, which is again why I'm putting it into C tier, because although these are really good abilities, they're all very funneled into one aspect of the game. I wish I would have seen a little bit of variety, but overall, not bad. Just C tier. All right, B tiers. Like I said, we're going through tiers very high. All right, we're skipping right into the high stuff, because again, I'm keeping in mind the fact that so many of these classes, they're just so damn good. Like I can't put them into bad tiers. So we're gonna be spending most of our time up here in the high ones. So the B tiers, starting off here with the Glamour Bard. First off, at third level, you get Mantle of Inspiration. All right, you get to create a whole bunch of songs. Super awesome, really great if you are a choir kid or glee club and you just want to sing your heart out. As a bonus action, you can expand one use of your inspiration to grant yourself a wondrous appearance. When you do so, choose a number of creatures you see and who can see you within 60 feet, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. Each of them gains 5 temporary hit points, and when a creature gains these temporary hit points, it can immediately use its reaction to move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. And then the temp HP increases at certain levels. The numbers have always kind of been weird to me. I don't know why they chose like 8 or 11 or 4. It's like, why didn't you just make it like 10, 15, 20? Apparently 20 is too high at 15th level, or it's like, okay, well, why didn't they just do, I don't know. The numbers are strange to me. This ability is interesting, and it does not get the credit that I think people understand. And why I say that is because this is third level. This is a level where the ability for someone who has just been hit once and is already near death's door, because they're only third level. You got a third party wizard, third level wizard, third level, sorcerer, warlock, cleric, even, and they've only been attacked once, but at third level, once is enough to maybe knock you down a decent chunk. This gives you that nice little cushion, all right, that nice little 5 temporary hit points, give you just a little bit more survivability, and it lets you move your speed to get out of the way. It may not seem like that big of a deal, but when this does need to happen, damn does it come in clutch. And the fact that it increases, the fact that it scales is fantastic. But we're not done, because again, this is the Bard. They get a bunch of things at each level. Also, starting at third level, you can perform, all right, for a certain seductive music number. If you perform for at least a minute, you can attempt to inspire wonder in your audience by singing, reciting a poem, or dancing. At the end of the performance, choose a number of humanoids within 60 feet. So I guess, I can't do that if I'm trying to do, dragons or something else. Within 60 feet of you who watched and listened to all of it, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. Each target must succeed a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or be charmed by you. While charmed in this way, the target idealizes you. It speaks glowingly of you to anyone who speaks to it, and it hinders anyone who opposes you, avoiding violence unless it is already inclined to fight on your behalf. This effect ends on the target after 1 hour if it takes any damage, if you attack it, or if it witnesses you attacking or damaging any of its allies. Basically, you get to cast a giant charm person, mass charm person, which isn't even a spell. I know mass suggestion is, but here you get to cast a mass charm person within 60 feet, up to your charisma modifier, and all you have to do is perform a minute. This is nuts. You talk about social encounter, here you go. Like this is something that makes it to where, you charm an entire fucking tavern. You charm an entire club of people who don't know you're an enemy just yet into thinking you're the best shit ever and that they won't attack you, and will freely give you information. Huge. If the target succeeds on the saving throw, the target has no hint that you tried to charm them. This is, again, one of those lines that causes me to go, yep, this isn't just a great ability, it is a broken ability. The fact that any other kind of charming ability usually has some sort of drawback onto it that usually says something like, once this is over or once it has happened, then they know they have been charmed. This gets nothing. So you lose nothing. You might as well try it every chance you get, because worst that happens is you perform for a minute, and that's all there is, and nothing bad happens. And top it all off, it's not a long rest, it's a short rest. So you can do this multiple times a day. Huge ability. These two abilities alone almost make this an A tier. Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot. All right, most of these classes probably should be an A tier, which is why most of them aren't, but great ability. Mantle of Majesty at 6th level. All right, so we get our experience up a little bit. You gain the ability to cloak yourself in Fey magic that makes others want to serve you. As a bonus action, you cast Command without expanding a spell slot, and you take on an appearance of unearthly beauty for 1 minute or until your concentration ends. During this time, you can cast Command as a bonus action on each of your turns without expanding a spell slot. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against the command you cast with this feature. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. All right, let me remind you here what you get to do at 3rd level. Do you see it? Do you see what you get to do at 3rd level? And what condition it is considered on them now? Yeah. These two combined together make it so that basically you can turn almost any room of anyone that isn't already trying to kill you into a room of people that will basically do whatever you say. Now, granted, you can argue that, hey, well, this is only once per turn. This is only once per, only one person. If you have not read what Command can do, Command is a very unutilized spell, very underutilized spell. Command can change the entire outcome of a combat, especially at lower tier 1, tier 2. Telling an enemy, being able to command an enemy to shut down or to grovel, which makes it so that on its turn, all it can do is just get down on its knees, grovel, and then stand back up. And that's it. It can't move, it can't go anywhere, it can't attack, and the fact that you, if you've already charmed it, now have the ability to, as a bonus action, be able to command it. This is just nuts. This is crazy. Once you use this feature, however, you cannot use it again until a long rest. So basically, as long as you were able to concentrate on this, it's great. But as soon as the concentration ends, maybe you do take damage from something else, or maybe that something ends up succeeding at saving throw, you do have to wait a while to get it back. But still, it's a fantastic ability. All right, and finally at 14th level, your appearance permanently gains an otherworldly aspect that makes you look more lovely and fierce. In addition, as a bonus action, you can assume a magically majestic presence for 1 minute or until you are incapacitated. For the duration, whenever any creature tries to attack you for the first time on a turn, the attacker must make a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it can attack you on this turn, and it must choose a new target for its attack, or the attack is wasted. On a successful save, it can attack you on this turn, but it has disadvantage on any saving throw it makes against your spells on your next turn. Once you assume this majestic presence, however, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. This ability, I'm glad what they did, because, again, this is like... To me, the Glamour Bard should almost be A tier. And the reason it should almost be A tier is because these earlier abilities are all kind of social encounters. This last one is combat oriented. And the fact that this, you might as well do this in almost any single combat, especially if your DM is known for, combat giving you a chance to take a short rest and then giving you another combat after, there's no reason you should never do this ability. The fact that you lose nothing out of it, either they miss you, which charisma saving throws, I think they're kind of that midway. Some enemies, especially like spellcasters, I find like usually have decent charisma saving throws. But like most like monstrosities and things, beasts, animals, usually their charisma is not very good. So you may very well find yourself, and it says any creature, it doesn't say any humanoid, it says any creature. So you may find yourself, this succeeding quite often. The only problem is, and to be honest, this is probably the only reason why, when I thought about it, why I probably put this into B tier. I'll be honest, I made this list a while ago. I think is because even though this sounds really, really awesome and really effective, depending on who your DM is, your DM may very well be like, okay, well, if I have to make a charisma save every time I want to hit you, and no matter what, it's going to end up, screwing over my monster, because it's either not going to hit you and I'm going to waste my attack, or it's going to hit you, but then it's going to be it's going to have disadvantage on any strike you try to make on your turn with spells, because the spell save disadvantage on spell save DCs. Then you are basically going to find yourself in the situation where you're just not targeted by the monster, which is maybe really, really good. But if you find yourself in a party where there is maybe a wizard with you, or a sorcerer with you, or a fighter with you who's just not as good, not as tanky as they should be, then this ability may cause your DM to just kind of lose focus on you and just go after some of the squishies very, very quickly. If that's the point, if your goal is to just make a character that survives everything, then great. This definitely would do that. But I don't know. It's I'm not a big fan of abilities that basically come down to DM discretion. Where it's like, yeah, this is a really good ability if the DM says, hey, I'm going to allow this monster to make the decisions that monster would make. If that monster would look at you and see that you're the enemy, you're the closest one to it, you're the one hurling the spells, so it is going to continue to attack you even though I, the DM, know that I have to make this saving throw every time, then it's a great ability. But if not, you may very well, if instead you have a DM who's like, well, I know what's going to happen, so I'm just going to focus on this other character instead, you may find yourself being the accidental reason why the wizard or the sorcerer or the fighter gets focus fired and then drops to 0 HP in like 2 or 3 turns. But hey, that's not on you. That's on DM. So, I don't know. Overall, fantastic abilities. Like I said, almost A tier from a lot of these. The only thing I can say, the only quality about it that I'm not a big fan of is the fact that it is very, very reliant on the charming. It is reliant on, the social aspects of things. And I guess just overall, you may find yourself in the situation where a lot of this stuff is really effective in some cases. But again, if you're going into a big bad situation, or if, let's say you didn't get the chance to have that minute for whatever reason, then you may find yourself in the situation where, these abilities just aren't being able to be utilized like they should. So overall, B tier. Very close to A, but B tier. All right, sticking with our B tier, we have the Swords Bard. These are not in any particular order. I'm not saying that the Swords Bard is better because it's coming after the Glamour. Just they're both here in B tier. Bonus proficiencies. As you go into the College of Swords, you gain proficiency in heavy armor and the scimitar. Okay. If you are proficient with a simple or a martial weapon, you can use it as spellcasting focus for your bard spells. That's cool. I will say I don't know too many DMs who are big, opponents of spellcasting focuses. In other words, I don't know too many who really get anal when it comes to, well, if you have this in this hand and not your spellcasting focus, you can't do that. I find like most DMs are generally pretty like, hey, you got your spellcasting focus on you. If for some reason, narratively, it would make sense for it to not be there, such as you being arrested or something, then maybe I could understand it. But in terms of just, for an ability, I don't know, a little lackluster. However, also at third level, you gain a fighting style, and you get to choose. You can either take dueling, when you're wielding melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, which is probably the one you're going to end up taking here. You get a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. So that scimitar is, all of a sudden being able to put just as much damage out as many, many other weapons. Fantastic. When you engage in two-weapon fighting, fighting style, when you engage in two-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. Pretty good if you're doing the dual weapons here. Although, again, maybe if you do have that DM who's notorious for making sure that, hey, if you cast a spell, you better have your focus in one hand. But then again, hey, look, you can use your other weapon for a for a spellcasting focus. So hey, maybe it works out pretty good. Or Blade Flourish. You can conduct impressive displays of martial prowess and speed. Whenever you take the attack action on your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of the turn. And if a weapon attack that you make as part of this action hits a creature, you can use one of the following Blade Flourish options of your choice. You can only use one Blade Flourish option per turn. All right, so Defensive Flourish. You can expend one use of your Bardic Inspiration and cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. The damage equals the number you roll on the Bardic Inspiration die. You also add the number rolled to your AC until the start of your turn. If that sounds like this is, the UA for the Valor School, you're right. It's because it is. Defensive Flourish. You can spend one use of the Bardic Inspiration to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. That damage equals... Oh, sorry. I already read that. Slashing Flourish. You can spend one use of your Bardic Inspiration to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit and to any other creature of your choice you can see within 5 feet. The damage equals the number you roll on the Bardic Inspiration die. So just kind of a nice little, half AoE. I get to attack you, and I get to hit 1, 2, maybe 3 of your friends. Okay, not bad. And Mobile Flourish. You can expand one use of the Bardic Inspiration and cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. The damage equals the number you roll on the Bardic Inspiration die. You can also push the target 5 feet away, plus the number of feet equal the number you roll on that die. You can then immediately use your reaction, move up to your walking speed to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target. So basically, you can attack, do some extra damage, push it, and then once you get to 6th level and get to attack again, then maybe you can attack it and push him back again. If you're fighting on a cliff, lava pool nearby could be cool. Could be effective. And the fact that you don't have to pick it, the fact that this isn't an ability where it's like, hey, at 3rd level you have to pick Defensive Flourish, and that's the only one you will learn for the rest of your life. That's nice. You can choose, hey, for this turn I'm using Defensive Flourish, for the next turn I'm using Slashing, and because I'm in a situation where mobile would be useful, I'm doing that. It's nice. 6th level, attack twice. It's a melee spellcaster. 6th level is always going to be that. All right, at 14th level, whenever you use the Blade Flourish option, you can roll a d6 and use it instead of expanding a inspiration die. So basically, from now on, you do not have to rely on wasting your inspirations to do all of your fun things. Now instead, you can just use a d6 instead. Should you be in a situation where, hey, maybe I've already used my inspiration dies. Maybe, for whatever reason, I'm kind of a miser with him right now. It's nice. The reason why this is in B tier is because, one, it is better than the Valor. It basically allows you to do multiple things that the Valor does, but it gets to do them better. However, just like the Valor Bard, this Bard is also lacking in the out of combat situations. Nothing here is going to help you socially. None of these things are going to help you, with maybe exploration or investigation. But in terms of a melee spellcaster, you'd be hard pressed to find one much better. I think maybe the Blade Singer is maybe the only one that outbeats this. In terms of a pure spellcaster who can still throw down on Melee. So definitely B tier. And with that, we will wrap up this video, kind of the lower spectrum of the subclasses for the board. Part 2 will be the good stuff, the better stuff. I shouldn't say the good stuff because a lot of the stuff is good, but the better stuff, the top tier things. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I will see you for part 2, and I will catch you next time.